Daf Nun Hey, you begin the top line of the Amma, we continue with the next Mishnah. Again, continue the theme of these Mishnayos, which again, the concept of Nedarim is that you're taking a neder, your words are taken very importantly. And that's the significance of Nedarim, that the things actually become you create a spiritual change of principle in the item. So the words that you say are important. We want to know what's included in your words as we continue from the previous Mishnah of this parak. Something to discuss in today's daf are again this concept of lashon b'nei adam. What do people mean when they say certain words? Which that includes in our Mishnah. Dogon. Someone takes a neder from grain. That's one way of translating the word. Tzvu is also another word that's used for grain generally. So again, what's included in those words? And one of the discussions the Gemara has regarding alalta, hecha mikra. Alalta usually means what's income. But the question is, what is that going to include? Is that going to include income from rent of a boat, of a house, which has a certain depreciation? Would that be included or not? And then some takes another from a garment. What's included in the garment? The halacha of chamesh b'nei dagan, the 5 types of grain. Some Agadic teachings regarding midma, matan, nachlim, nachli, bamas, regarding someone who's zeicha to the words of Torah. So beginning our daf nun hey, on the top line of the Amid. Says the Mishnah, dagan. Someone takes a neder from dagan. Grain is how it's usually translated. So Asa Pula Mitzri Yavish, he's forbidden. Now we spoke about this Pula Mitzri on the other Mishnah, on the previous daf. We spoke about it when it's moist. We said when it's moist, it's a yerek, it's a vegetable. But as we know, beans could be used as depends what type of legumes or whatever. It could be used as everyone's into these different types of grains these days. So when it's a dried Egyptian bean, then that's going to be usher and the neder of dog and divri meir, because the reason is since it's midgan, meaning you make dagan out of it, you make it into a pile, and you grind it down, you make it into a flour. So Remeir holds that's considered as dagan to it, it's included in that isser. The sages say no, in asal b'chamesh, I mean only forbidden when you say dagan, you mean the 5 types of dagan, which are, as we know, wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and rye. Those are the 5 types of grain that's included in Nedarim dagan, not this other types of Egyptian bean that's dry. Now, however, Remeir says, what sort of hanoidim min ha-tavua? Not dagan, you said tavua. Say no, then says Remeir, yeah, I agree over there. Only thing that's going to be forbidden is the 5 types of grain. But if you say no dagan, like the term we said in the beginning of the Mishnah, then also forbidden on everything, meaning other types too, like the dried Egyptian bean. But well, dagan does not include a banana, does not include a vegetable, because those things you don't make dagan out of. But other things would be included in dagan. Says the Gemara, remember, is this to say, asking on Remeir, the dagan, the way he said in the Mishnah, that it's called the midgan masha. Anything that you could make a pile of, that you make grain out of, is that included in dagan? But Masav Yosef asked from a pasuk in Divrei Yomim. In the days of Chizkiah HaMelech, they weren't careful so much to separate Trumas and Isis. So Chizkiah HaMelech got up and he instituted they should bring a tash to the base of Mikdash, to the base of Hashem. Now it says there in the pasuk, when this strengthened and the takan of Chizkiah became something that was being enforced, so the Jewish people were increasing Reish's dagan, the first of the grain, Tirish the wine, Yitzar and the oil, B'chol Tavua Sada, and all the Tavua of the field, L'roiv, towards abundance, B'goyim, etc. Says Rabbi Yosef, the Amr dagan, and if you're going to say the dagan means, called the midgan mashma, it includes anything that you make dagan out of it. So my kiproids hadavar Hebrew. So what do you mean when you're saying this pasuk, as it was increasing this thing, as it was manifesting? So what as some bring the rest of the pasuk, v'chol tavuas sadeh. What is that v'chol tavuas sadeh coming to tell us? Meaning, if you're telling me that whatever's midgan, whatever you make dagan out of is included in dagan, so then kol tavuas sadeh is already included. So what's this extra wording you're saying? These words kol tavuas sadeh seem to be unnecessary and redundant, because you're telling me dagan includes anything that would be that you would be taking meiser from and trumas. So Amabaye says the extra words v'chol tavuas sadeh is lasuya peres ha'ilan v'yerek. That's coming to include not kol midi de midgan. You're right. That's included from the word dagan. It's including the fruits from a tree and vegetables, which you don't make dagan out of it. That you have trumas and meiser from that too. That's what's being included, and therefore it's not difficult. Now we had in the Mishnah Rabbi Meir, he said, if someone takes a neder from Tvua, B'chulu, he said, oh, there I agree that you're only going to be forbidden from the Chamesh Mini Dagan. So Rabbi Yochanan says, everyone agrees, but Nedarim Tvua, as we said in the Mishnah. Everyone agrees to Reb Meir in this, that Reb Meir agrees, and everyone agrees to him. Take another from Tvua, only forbidden from the 5 types of grain. And as the Ran points out, although we said it in the Mishnah, but we said it in the Lashon Yachid, but everyone agrees to it, meaning it's not only one Tana. And Tana Malchasum in the Brisa. Shavin, everyone agrees, but Nedarim Tvua, we take another from Tvua, we only forbidden the 5 types of grain of Chita Sa'ira, Kusmin, Shipon, and Shabel Shua. Says Pshita, obvious. So the Gemara says, no. Mountain, when you say Tvua, Kol Mili Mashma, the word Tvua includes everything. And the reason for this is, as the Ram explains, because the Targum of Tvua is Alalta. And as we're going to see later on, Alalta actually includes everything. So you would have thought, as you'll infer from the Aramaic translation, that Tvua would also include everything. It's not true. If you use the Aramaic word, it's not a word for word, it's not exact translation. So Alalta might include other things, but not Tvua. And that's the Chiddush. That's to tell you that the word Tvua does not include everything. But most of it is in the pasuk we mentioned before. Pasuk said, "Ukaproitz hadavar," that when the thing was manifesting here b'nei Yisrael b'chulu, they increased, etc. And the pasuk says, "V'chol tvua sadeh u'maiser hakoil l'rayv." So the question is that the word tvua, it sounds like it's going on everything, because the words of the pasuk are "V'chol tvua sadeh u'maiser hakoil l'rayv." It sounds like it's going on everything, but didn't you tell me that the word tvua really only includes the 5 types of grain? So Amar Rabba says tvua l'chud. The word tvua, if it's just that word, that means only the chamesh minim. Tvuas sadeh l'chud. The word tvua sadeh means something else. That sounds like everything. So it's not the same word when it has with the word of sadeh. I think Gemara brings a story that Bar Mar Shmuel, the son of Mar Shmuel, pakid, so he commanded the lisnun tleiser alfei zuz l'Rava, that they should give 13,000 zuz to Rava, but he said specifically min alalta the nahar panya, from his income, that's the word alalta, in by the river Panya. Now, so Rava heard he's getting this income, so sholcha Rava look at Rabbi Yosef. So Rava asked Rabbi Yosef, he says alalta heiche mikra. What's the translation of alalta? Because Rava didn't want to take only from the alalta that Bar Mar Shmuel designated for him. But you have to know what does alalta mean. So Amar Yisrael said, and the Ger says masnitahi. It's the Brisa we quoted before. The Brisa said the B'shavin that everyone agrees, or and Rabban agree, but that someone takes a neder from Tavua, that you're only forbidden from the 5 types of grain. Now, Yosef thought that since alalta is the Targum, is the Aramaic translation of the word Tavua, so that would only include the Chamesh Minim, like we said regarding Tavua. Which Abaye says, me dummy, is it the same thing? Using the Hebrew word of tvua, that's only the 5 types. Alalta kol mili mashma. The word alalta, like the Ran translated, alalta means the terminology of income, what's incoming, which is the gains that you have. That sounds like everything, and therefore that would not be limited to the chameshes aminim. And adru l'kamei Rava, and they came back in front of Rava, and Amai says, yes, holy kamibayli. He says that I didn't have the question. That I knew all along, like Abaya said. That allowed to call mili mash. I wasn't asking if it's limited to the 5 types of grain the way Rav Yosef said it. I knew it means everything. But my question I was asking the Rav was, schar batim v'schar svinois mai. I want to know that this Bar Mar Shmuel, who's letting me get the income that he has by Nahar Panya, so he has some summer homes over there and he has some yachts over there that he rents out. I want to know regarding those income. What's the question? Mirmin, do we say, even the pechsan, since there's a depreciation, obviously you rent your stuff out, you don't expect you come back after the weekend, after the whole month that you were away, someone use your house, you don't expect, it's not a few things I'm nixing and whatever over there. So, lav alaltahi, that's not going to be considered as alalta, because like the Taisa explains, alalta sounds like something that is mishabeach, not something that's a depreciated item. And therefore you cannot call that alalta. Or maybe no. Keeping the loyidi precise, since it's not a definitive amount of loss, alalti is still considered as income. That was my question. I want to know, is that including alalta or not? So now we're going to get into interesting conversation. So the rabbis said in front of Rabbi Yosef that what Rav said, that he said that the Rav got it all wrong. And even the answer the Rav was all wrong. Said I didn't have anything in mind with the chameshus aminim. I knew that was wrong. I knew there's like a baya that alalta means everything, and it's not like Rav Yosef who said it's only chamesh aminim. And my whole question was regarding if it's going to include certain types of rentals. So Amar, when Rav Yosef heard this, what Rav had said, he said, so if he doesn't need us, why is he sending us the question? Rav Yosef was bothered by what Rav had done. So Rav heard that the Rebbe was bothered. So he came in front of Rav Yosef on Erev Yom Kippur, the famous day of everyone goes to Bet Tzach Ibbe. He found the attendant of Rav Yosef. He was pouring in front of Rav Yosef a cup of wine. He was diluting it. He was when they would pour, they would dilute. They had the raw. We don't have raw wine, but they had the raw wine. You have to dilute it. So Amalei said to him, to the attendant, he says, Tima Teva, to the hosbuch, he says, Havli the amzigle ana. Let me go and mix the wine for the Rebbe. So Yovle, he gave it to him. So he went and he mixed the water and the wine for Rav Yosef. Kikashasi Amar, when Rav Yosef was drinking, he said, Hadin Mizga, this mixing, Damil Mizga de Rava Bered Rav Yosef Bachama. This is very similar to the way Rava, it's interesting, he's Eretzach from the Zayde, he calls him Rava Bar Rav Yosef Bachama. The Rebbes, they go some of the Zayde, There's a Zaytzachos Azay, Viruvas Azay, the way he mixed it, because Rava used to mix 3 parts of water to 1 part wine. Because Rava says, the Gemara mentions elsewhere in Masechta Shabbos, any wine that you don't mix 3 parts water to 1 part wine, it's not considered wine. That's Rava held that. Let's say if to mix people mix cocktails. In those days, they used to mix their wine. Says that's what has to be done. So he said, he chapped that this wine tasted different than the way the hosbucha usually does it. And he says, this tastes like Rava's. And the reason why is because Rav Yosef was blind. So he couldn't see, but he tasted. So Amalei, and sometimes actually if you're blind, you have you stronger other senses. So maybe that's all. Amalei says, who knew? So Rava says, Ich bin dus. I'm the one. So Amalei said to him, like taste of akarach. I don't want you to sit down at the Amrit Li Perush Hadim Nilsa until you interpret for me the following pasuk. Maidich said, what does it mean the pasuk in Midbar? It says, when this actually is talking about the travels that the Jewish people had done, but of course there's deeper mystical explanations in everything that says in the Torah. So he wants to know when it says the Midbar Matana, they went from Midbar to Matana, Matana Nachlil, from Matana went to Nachlil, Nachlil Bamas, from Nachlil went to Bamas. Tell me what this pasuk means. Now the Ran explains that Rav Yosef's intent was to warn Rava that he should be more humble, because you don't say that I never had a question and my whole question was this and that. You spoke a little bit gaivadik, and he was trying to tell him by this translation of this pasuk, you have to be more humble if you want to learn Torah. So Rava interpreted him. He says, "I'll explain you what the psukkah means." Once a person makes himself like the desert, meaning that he is ownerless for everyone, meaning to say that he's going to teach Torah to anyone. Then Torah nitzalei b'matana. Then the Torah is given to him as a gift. Again, you have to be like a midbar, you have to be a shuffle, you have to be a low person. Don't think ich bin dus, and you know who I am. So like it says, from midbar, you treat yourself like a midbar. Everyone steps on it, and there's nothing so grand about it. Then you get the matana of Torah. But once it's given to him as a gift, so God gives it to him as a nachla, as an inheritance. Like it says in pasuk, matana was nachaliel, which was nachlekel. And then once God gives him as an inheritance, he goes up to greatness. Like it says in the pasuk, from the nachla of kel, you come to the great heights. Now the problem is, but if someone goes and makes himself haughty and arrogant because he's this great mensch, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mashpila, HaKadosh Baruch Hu lowers him down. Like it says over there in the pasuk, and from the heights of the valley. But you see that you go from Bamais, you go down to the valley. Not only that, grouped him in the air. They bury him in the ground. Like it says in the pasuk over there, it says v'nishkafa al panei hayishiman. Now, simple translation means it was overlooking over the wilderness. But the word nishkafa is from the word iskufa. Iskufa is a doorstep that gets stepped on. And that's what you become. You become a doormat that everyone steps on you. That's what happens if you're an arrogant person because you became disgraced mensch, then you get stepped on. Now, but if the person retracts, and you could always do tshuva, Kadosh Baruch Hu Magbiya. Kadosh Baruch Hu is then going to elevate as we continue to Beis. Just like it says in the pasuk in Yeshaya, Kol Gay Yunase. Every valley will be elevated. Now, as the Ram points out, although this pasuk is not in the same pasuk as Nachliya Bamis, because that's in the Torah and this is by Nevi'im. Even so, since it says HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be mashpil the person like a gay, like a valley, so it brings a proof that if someone's mashpil himself, he's going to ultimately be elevated, like it says, Kol gay, Yunase. But then whatever valley will then be elevated. Now, relating back to halacha about Mishnah, Tanya learned in the Brisa, a neder min hadagon. If someone takes a neder from grain, like we said this in the Mishnah, it's going to be forbidden even in the dry Egyptian bean, because like we said, as the Remeir said in the Mishnah, since it's midgan, since you make grain out of it, so therefore it's going to have the same halacha like dagon. But you permit it in the moist Egyptian bean, because that's like we said actually in the prior Mishnah, the previous stuff, that's actually like a yerek. Moreover, mutter, you also, when you say dagan, you're going to be permitted ba'oiras, in rice, bechilka. Chilka is the word split. So when you take a kernel of wheat and you split into two, or betrogis, which is try, which means three, you split it into threes, or betisni, which is you split into quarters, 1 into 4. That's how the Gemara explains in Moed Katan of Yigimel and Beis, and therefore it's going to be permitted because it's not really wheat anymore. It already changed by splitting the wheat into these types of grits. So therefore that's not going to be included in the neder of dagan. Now, hanoidim and peres hashana. If someone takes a neder from the peres, the produce of the year, so also b'chol peres hashana, it's forbidden in all the produce of the year, but it's permitted in gedoyim, in goats, or b'tzloyim, and with lambs, and with chalav, and with milk, and with beitzim, and with eggs, with gezalas, and with chicks. Meaning he could be on that diet that Atkins, he eats all these protein, but he can't have from peres. But if he says whatever grows, he uses a different terminology, one word difference. Gidule shanala, what grows in this year, then asabakulan. They've forbidden all these things because these are also gidule. These are things that also grow. Now, however, the Ran just points out it's only if he didn't make it forbidden them only for a limited amount of time that he could manage. But if he would take a neder forever, actually it wouldn't be a neder at all because you can't fulfill it. What are you going to live on? So therefore, he would be permitted, but it's only for a limited time. Then it would be forbidden all these things. Continues the Brisa. Hanoidim and Peres haaretz. If someone takes a neder from the Peres haaretz, the produce of the land, he's forbidden all produce of the land. But he's permitted in mushrooms and truffles because they're not Peres haaretz. Now, they are included in Gedule Karka, they grow from the ground, but they're not Peres haaretz, as the Gemara is going to explain later on. So he's not eating anything, but he could be somewhere in who knows what planet from all the shrooms that he's getting. So that he can have, but he can't have the Peres arts. Now, but if he said whatever grows from the ground is forbidden on me, then also because it's forbidden even in all those shrooms because it's Gedule Karka. So the Gemara has a contradiction for the following Brisa. The Brisa says another context of halacha, but we're going to draw it back to here. Al davar shein gedulim in the aretz. From something that does not grow from the ground, oimer shakal nimidvar. You make a shahakal. We're talking about in the Brisa. Alamelech on salt, valzaman on salt water, valkamein on opatrius and mushrooms and truffles. You say that everything is made with his words. Says the Ran, obviously you see that mushrooms are not considered Gedule Karka. Because you just told me in the beginning of the Brisa, on something that is not Gedule min ha'aretz, you say shakalim midvarei. So obviously mushrooms are not Gedule min ha'aretz. But didn't you just tell me that it is Gedule Karka? That it is Gedule min ha'aretz, that it grows on the ground? So Amabai makes a very important distinction, which is very important for the halacha of mushrooms. Midivu ravu me'ara. They grow from the ground. And therefore, when you say gedule karkalai, something that grows from the ground is forbidden on me, you're going to be forbidden on all these mushrooms. But however, the primary nourishment is meinik me'aviru yonkiv le'maviru. We know it's a fungi. It's fungus. It grows from the air. And therefore, you're going to make a bracha of shahakal. So it depends on what context of halacha, what the ramification is going to be. But the Gemara says, how can you say it? Because the words of the Brisa are al davar she'en gedulim min ha'aretz. You tell me something that's not gidul, does not grow from the ground, and you tell me that that's what you make shakal on, and you tell me mushrooms are included. I thought it is gedulim min ha'aretz. It's just not yoinik from the aretz. Says the Gemara, to me you have to amend it to read al davar she'en yoinik min ha'aretz. Something that's not nourished from the ground. That's what you make a shakal, and therefore, but it is going to be gedule karka. Then Allah in the next Mishnah that if someone's hanoidim min aksus, something that from a garment. So the Allah is mutter besak. He's permitted in a sackcloth, ubiyiriya, and a curtain. Meaning, if he wants to wear a curtain, he wants to be like a Superman, wants to wear a cape or something like that, he could take the curtain. Ubechamila, which chamila is similar to a curtain. And the point is, it's not considered ksus, it's not a garment. Therefore, you permit it's not included in the neder. Let's say someone says, I'm taking a neder, tzemer oilolai, that I'm not going to have wool go on me, which that sounds like a malbush of tzemer, a garment of wool. So mutilis kasabekizit tzemer, you're allowed to cover yourself with shearings of wool because it's not a garment of tzemer. Now, so too, hapish noilolai. Let's say someone says, I'm taking a neder that I'm not going to have flax go on me. So mutilis kasaba needs a pishna. It means a garment of linen. He's allowed to go and cover himself with stalks of flax. That's not included in the neder. Now, Rabbi Shloimy says everything goes according to the one who's taking the vow, meaning according to the context of the neder at the time of the neder when he was taking it, and that person, and what type of Indian of the neder that's going to qualify, as the Mishnah explains. Let's say Toin, he was carrying vizi and he was sweating, and he was having a bad odor. But Omar, he says, he says, you know what? I'm taking neder. I'm not going to have wool and linen ever go on me. You would be permitted to cover yourself with such a garment because that's not what you meant. You just would be forbidden to go and take such a bundle on your back to make a load from those types of things. Because what was paining him is what he took the neder on, which he was carrying such a package. It wasn't the cover. And therefore, you would be permitted to go ahead and cover yourself with that type of a thing. Because it's recognizable that the reason why he took the neder was because of the heavy load, which was smelling and stink when he was carrying it. So therefore, he would be able to cover himself with such a garment. So to the Gemara explained, Tanya in the Braisa, I know if someone takes a neder from a garment, so mutter besak, he'd be permitted to cover himself with a sackcloth, with a curtain, with chamila, also a different type of a curtain. But v'asa, he'd be forbidden bepunda. Punda is a hollow belt. This is considered as a ksus, as a type of a garment. A belt is a garment. And uvif sikya, which that's also it's a wide belt that you have strings hanging from the top to tie it on. This is also a type of a garment. Uviskurtia, which is a garment of leather, which those people who would work tanning leather would wear on their garments, not to ruin their garments. And ubikatavlia, which actually is a garment of thick leather, which they would wear on the uskurtia. So they actually wore two layers, those who tanned the leather. And vinpalya, which are shoes made out of leather. Ufalanya, which is a type of a belt. Umechnesaim, these are all types of garments, and they're included in the neder of ksus. Mechnesaim are pants. Vikaveh and a hat, they're all considered ksus, and it's going to be forbidden. So the Gemara asked, just to clarify, my uskurti. One of the cases was a skurtia. What is that? Some Rabbi B'chana, it's kituna ditzala. It's a leather shirt that they wore when they would be tanning. Again, it's a garment, and therefore it's going to be usher in the neder min ksus. Now, related, the Gemara brings Tanya learned the Braisa regarding this idea that we're saying that a sackcloth and a curtain, regarding the halach of neder, we said is not considered ksus. But now, in the related vein regarding the laws of Shabbos, we talk about that actually it is like a malbush. Yoitzin besak ava. You could go out with a thick sackcloth on Shabbos. And in other words, we don't say it's considered a masai. Now, the Ram points out it's not literally a sack, rather it's like a sack, because the end of the Braisa says that the royim go out with sakim. So we don't mean a regular sack, but it's like made out of sackcloth. So although we're saying we're running laws of Nedarim, a sack is not considered as a ksus, but the laws of Shabbos, you could go out, it's considered like wearing a garment. So do besagus ava. You could wear a thick sagus, which also a type of sackcloth. It's thicker than a curtain. Ubiyiriya, with a curtain, and chamila, and with a chamila, also a type of a curtain. Next sham, let's say it's raining. So a lot of times you have this in shul, and people want to go and take a tablecloth and wear it and go out, and it's where you can't carry. So what's halacha? So in regards to this, at least in the Braisa, the way it's just translating it, saying, yeah, you can wear that, it's a garment. You can't take a box. And another type of a box, a basket, because of the rain, that would be considered carrying. That's not considered a garment. That would not qualify. Now, we said, like the Reisha, the shepherds, they could go out with sackcloths. We didn't say it only by shepherds. It means everyone. Chum just say what normal, meaning that's what shepherds would wear, but everyone could wear it because it's considered as a garment. So we see the laws of Shabbos are slightly different than the laws of Nadarim. Now, one final teaching, we said in the Mishnah, he says, he says, everything depends on the context. When the guy takes a neder, when you're saying what his words mean, his words also have to go into understanding who he is, his personality, what was going on, and what did he mean when he took the neder. So, like we said, if he was carrying a heavy load of wool, and he says, I'm never going to be having wool go on me ever again. It doesn't mean a garment of wool, not a woolen garment. He's going to have to go wool free. It just meant he's not going to carry loads of wool. Again, depends what's going on. So similarly, we learned Tanya in the Bryce, the case review that what does it mean? What's the case? The review says everything goes according to one that's taking the nether. Let's say I was wearing wool. The Heitzar, and it was bothering him. He's very sensory, and it was very tight, and he's pained by the wool. And he says, I'm never going to wear this itchy, I'm never going to wear wool ever again. He says, so also Lubush, he wouldn't be able to wear the wool, but of course he would be able to carry, if he's a porter, and he could carry boxes of wool. But let's say he's carrying a load of linen. And he's sweating. He's carrying all this linen on him, and it's making him sweat and smelly. Vaman says, I'm swearing I'm never taking this job ever again. But he doesn't say that. He just says, I'm taking that, I'm not going to have Pishtan go on me. Then Mutalilbush, you'd be allowed to wear linen. Vasalitin, you just wouldn't be able to carry, which the Ran just says. It's logical to me that the Bryce actually is disagreeing with the Mishnah in the Svar Rabbi Yehuda. Very interesting that what a dik he makes. The Tana of the Mishnah held in Rabbi Yehuda that agrees to the Tana Kama that wherever there's no proof, when you say oilalai, that would generally mean levisha, it means wearing and not carrying. Yehuda in the Bryce, however, holds that to permit carrying, you need to have a definitive proof when the neder happened when you were wearing tzemer. But if there's no definitive proof, then actually it would be forbidden them both. Levisha and tina. It's a nice dig that the Ram makes from the wording of the Bryce, so that it's different than reviewed in the Mishnah. Thank you to any time for hosting us.